What's up, everybody? Really excited about this podcast episode with Lucas Ferrer. He is a vascular surgeon, a doctor, and we're going to explore consciousness a bit together in this episode. It's a great episode. I'm really excited to present it. And I wanted to let you all know that I do have the Path to Purpose course over on Patreon. It's absolutely free, 7 days to find your true goal. I made it as condensed and simple and straightforward as I possibly could. And I've heard a lot of great feedback about it. So if you're not already over on Patreon, you can join absolutely free and get access to that course. Also, this Wednesday, we're going to be doing a group call, and I'm going to be sharing a brand new exercise that's amazing that I learned over the weekend at a conference. I am super excited to share it, and you'll be able to do the exercise with us live. We'll do about an hour. We'll chat a little bit, just take it easy. And then I'll present this exercise. It'll probably take us about maybe 15 minutes to do. And if you haven't done the Path to Purpose, you can still do the exercise and it'll be helpful. But I think it's a really great capper for the Path to Purpose course and something that I'm really excited about, and I'll talk much more in detail about on the call. In order to get on that call, you will need to join Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/Bootsy Greenwood. Again, that's patreon.com/Bootsy Greenwood. Join for free. I'll put the post out later today, actually. You'll see it. That's only a day away. Wednesday, 9 p.m., October 9th is when the call will be. October 9th, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hop on it live. Come hang out with us. I really look forward to engaging and interacting with everybody. I really appreciate you all for being here, and I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast, the Blue Collar Mystics podcast. Today, I am ecstatic. We're going to have an amazing conversation. We're going to help somebody break down some of these. We're going to have some help from somebody to help break down some of these big words. That's kind of what we're talking about consciousness-wise. And I'm very pleased and excited to introduce you all to someone who was introduced to me by the great Courtney Johnson, Dr. Lucas Ferrer, who is a surgeon. He's got a podcast called The Life of Flow. And we're going to talk a little bit about consciousness from a more scientific and professional perspective today, which I'm very, very enthusiastic and excited to be able to chat with you. Thank you so much for coming to the show. Lucas, welcome.
No, my pleasure. Yeah, I don't know how much science applies to this, but we can talk about some stuff.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about whatever applies. I love the fact that you are practicing in medicine and you're fascinated with these topics regarding consciousness. So I kind of want to see how these two sort of worlds collide and merge. As a lot of people, it's a hot topic online. A lot of people talk about the old science, the new science, new thought, new age. So we'll talk about some of these things. And I know we have a lot of shared interests. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your podcast, Life of Flow.
I mean, the podcast is basically super niche. It's basically for people that do what I do. I'm a vascular surgeon, and it's for people doing vascular surgery or in kind of not just vascular surgery because other fields come in, but people that work in the space of cardiovascular disease. And it's not just kind of niche procedure stuff or healthcare. It's kind of anything. The idea came because like we have medical conferences, and the best part of the medical conference is when it's done and you go to the hotel lobby bar and then you meet your friends and then you talk about, you know, whatever procedure you're doing that's new or something interesting, or the really bad case that, you know, you spent like 16 hours operating on, but also you talk about, you know, like finance, like, oh, I'm investing in this, or like, oh, I'm breaking up, or like going through a divorce, or like, so all these stuff that is in the lives of, you know, it's those conversations that happen that you kind of look forward to. um yeah, so that's the podcast basically.
That's awesome. Yeah, doctors being real people. Very
Yeah,
cool.
exactly, yeah.
I like it a lot. Well, yeah, man, I'd love to hear a little bit about what got you into, consciousness and the ideas that are kind of, percolating that we've talked about. I know you're a fan of the Cabalian, which I recently rewrote or edited a little bit to try to make it a little bit more approachable. And that's definitely something that I want to pick your brain about, some of the concepts and topics in there. What got you interested and intrigued about consciousness and spirituality?
um well, you know, I growing up I was like a atheist basically. And then actually like residency, like surgical residency, yeah, was what made me aware of there are things that are just unexplainable, or that I didn't have an explanation for at the time. Like the kind of non-spiritual atheist uh, mindset or paradigm that I couldn't explain, and the one, and it was right away. I was rotating at like a hospital out in New Jersey, or in the outs. No, it was in the outskirts of Philly. I did residency in North Philadelphia, which is anybody knows is like the, you know, knife and gun club. So I was out there, and there's this young man, and he just had a procedure, and he was not doing really well. He was a little bit older than I was, recently married. His fiance was there. He was basically dying. And the way that I did my rounds were that I started at the top. It was three-story hospital, and then saw everyone for the night shift, and then would work my way down. And the last patient, you know, happened to be him. So I was there, and then I was listening to all the medical beeping and stuff, and I'm just pondering. It's like, man, this could be me. Like I could be this guy dying. It's just so random. Like, you know, what does this mean? And then the medical beeping like started like alarming in like uh, ominous tones. So his oxygen level was dropping. And then, you know, I did medical school in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, they kind of let you do a lot of things that they don't let you do here as a medical student. So I had done a lot of procedures at the time, things that I wasn't supposed to do alone in residency in my first rotation, basically. But I was the only surgeon in the hospital. Technically, I wasn't a surgeon at that point. Um, and basically, I kind of diagnosed it and called my chief resident. Like, hey, man, this guy has this problem. I think I need to do this right away, or he'll die. And then he's like, okay, I'm half an hour away. You'll just have to do it and do your best. And if I, yeah, you know, we did the procedure. He did fine at the moment at the time. And then, but I started thinking, man, if I didn't do my rounds that way, starting from the top, going from the bottom, if he wasn't the last one, if he wasn't the person I stopped in the room to ponder, if I hadn't been in Puerto Rico and done all these procedures by myself as a medical student, that guy would be dead. And how do you explain that? And then, okay, coincidence, it can be coincidence. But then so many more things happen when you are in that space in between life and death and you work there for a long time, you see a lot of stuff that are difficult to explain. And I think that's where my curiosity started, in that in between.
Wow. Yeah, I can see why. I mean, that's incredible. Like, yeah, like you're saying, the coincidence, or I mean, if you look at it through the Jungian lens, synchronicity
Hmm.
of all of those circumstances kind of going the way. So you were able to pull this guy out, and he lived.
Yeah, well, he lived for that. next couple of days.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. And so
Yeah.
that got you into kind of questioning the way that you had initially kind of looked at the world through the atheist lens.
Yeah. And then that kind of, yeah, over time, over those seven, I did 7 years because I did a master's in clinical research. So over those 7 years, that got shattered. That was like, okay, there's other things that I don't understand, and uh, they're interesting, and I'm curious. I don't think I'll ever understand them, but it's fun to search. It's fun to try to figure it out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so when that happened, what led you into doing some research? Were there any particular people, figures, books that kind of like started your journey into asking these questions?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a theme in my life. It was in the background. Like my dad always had like, loves. I like one of the first books I read was like Lobsang Rampa, which was actually a Tibetan monk slash physician, and he wrote a bunch of books that are super interesting, and those are really short, easy reads. And I started reading that kind of in high school or like early in college, and I always thought that that was very interesting. And then growing up, my grandfather, which kind of lived in the mountains of Puerto Rico, randomly, there was a Rosicrucian center in his little town. So he and my grandma would take my mom to the Rosicrucian center, and we would always hear these stories, but like they're very vague about Rosicrucianism. And it was a mystery. Apparently, when he died, somebody came and took all the books, and nobody knows what happens to them. So that was kind of like in the background. I'm actually now like reading all those books, all those pamphlets. So it was always there, and I just had to remember and rediscover. Kind of.
That's cool. What is stuck out on some of the Rosicrucian pamphlets? That's some of the most ancient stuff right there. That's wild.
Yeah, basically, bending reality to your will, kind of a deal. It sounds kind of, it's out there. It's
Hey, that's all right. We're here to explore, and I love how you set
yeah,
that up.
the I remember like the story that I remember hearing my mom talk about was like, putting a candle in front of the mirror and then manipulating the flame with your
Mm.
thoughts. And then yeah, I kind of worked on that experiment and like try to work, moving the candle and changing the light and the spectrum and stuff like that. I'm like shutting myself in the closet where it's all dark, lighting a candle in front of a mirror, and it's like, oh, this I must look really stupid doing this. But hey, it's fun to play around with these things.
Trippy, dude. Yeah, you say Bloody
Yeah.
Mary a couple times, turn around.
No, 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 no. I don't mess around with that. No, only positive stuff. Yeah, I
Absolutely,
don't. Yeah,
absolutely. No, I'm playing a bit, but
yeah,
no, that's fascinating. I love how you kind of set that up too, saying I may not ever understand these things, but I'm curious about them and I'm going to explore and discover them. So I really like that. I feel the same way. I feel like no one can really tell you what reality is. Like
hmm
all the mystics, all the scientists, all the great thinkers, all the philosophers, we can pontificate until the cows come home, but no one really has certainty on what the hell exactly is going on here. Uh,
yeah.
there's a lot of theory and stuff, and I would love to talk a little bit about that as far as like the Cabalian and your take on that, like just kind of beginning with understanding the basic premise of mentalism.
I mean, I'm not an expert in the Cabalian. I mean, I've read it once, and I think like these books you have to read like 5 times, right, to have an idea, like to even like be, yeah, basically be able to speak about them. But it does seem like it provides the framework to understand how certain things happen in your life, and then to understand how to maneuver so that, so that you can, I don't know, I guess make it easy for yourself, kind of a deal, you know? Like I feel like like, when you start reading these concepts, you're in life, you're always going to be have highs and you're always going to have lows.
Mhm.
And I think like one of the ways I look at it is, okay, how can I make the highs higher and last for longer, and the lows not as low and be shorter, kind of a deal. So that when you look at the Cabal, when you read some of the Cabalian stuff, so as above, so below, dualism. Um, I'm not sure what you mean when you talk about mentalism, but what I look at it is like life is a game. We're
Mhm.
all playing a game, and there are rules to the game,
Yep.
and they're like the Matrix, like basically the Matrix. There are rules to these games, so let's know the game, the rules of the game, and let's play the game. And I think like any game, and everything we do is a game. And that one of my very good friends kind of introduced that concept to me. He has a podcast too. His name's Vision. He'd be great for you to meet. But there's levels to every game. People play at different levels, and it's not about in Austin. There's just kind of like broy mindset of just like winning and doing everything harder and stuff like that. And I don't like that. I like just some like playful pushing the levels at the which you're playing the game. You know, as a I got to a point where I was like, okay, as a physician, I won the game of like my goals, which was to be an academic physician, academic surgeon, do these things, be in these trials, do the thing. Okay, perfect, good. I can keep playing this game, and I could try to be like chair or like something like that. That for me is boring. So let me try to play other games or play the game differently. And there's where all these, not just the Cabalion, but kind of all these sources of knowledge help you, first of all, have a kind of a playful attitude towards it with less stress. Basically, knowing that you have everything you need. I think starting from knowing that we have everything we need at this moment, at this, if you sit down, for most of us at most times, I'm not saying like somebody like in a war zone or anything like that, but for most of us at this time, we have everything we need. We have all our needs met, our needs met.
Mhm.
So go from there, go from that mindset, and then play the games that you want to play, and then at the levels that you want to play them, kind of a deal.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love the frame of making it a game because then it's automatically playful. And you're talking about making the highs higher and the lows lower and shorter. I think that's a great concept and idea. Like the idea, I guess, of mentalism is really just foremost what you do with your mind is kind of primary, and then
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah,
follow the effects of that cause. And so, if we set life up as a game and something to be played and to have fun with, then it's a lot less stressful. It's a lot less intense and scary and those types of things. And I think very likely we are going to get those higher highs and less lows. But but
yeah,
I also appreciate your objectivity too, because you're like, it's not like some wishful thinking. It's like, yeah, we're going to experience a range of things.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's about, you know, sitting in your couch and manifesting things, kind of a deal. Okay, I'm gonna manifest this from my couch. I don't think it works like that. You got to go out there and play the game. And sometimes the game is hard. It's gonna provide, it's if you want to play, it's gonna test you and say, okay, do you really want to play? And then what level do you want to play? So, do you really want to play at this level? Okay, let's see. Um, but if you have that mindset, when those challenges come, you kind of reframe them. Like, when you really want something, and it's happened a couple times in different settings. But when you really want something and you're working towards it, a lot of times you're getting there, and then right before you feel like you get there, some big problem comes up
Mm,
regarding it. And I think that's kind of baked in. That's part of like the programming. That's part of the game. It's like, okay, you really wanted it. I gave you a tease. All right, but now you have to like really go through this. Like usually it's usually not a big deal. It's like some menial task you have to go through, but like provides a lot of stress and a lot of distress. And so it's all again mind. All is mind. The universe is mind. So you just have to reframe that feeling of shittiness that you have at the moment. It's like, okay, let's just go through this kind of.
yeah, I love it. So, in Life of Flow, is that taken from the Mihai Csikszentmihalyi theory of flow, where he talks about like challenge level uh, versus like ease, like simplicity and challenge, where it's like you kind of find this ground where it makes you it forces you to grow and to do better, but it's not so overwhelming that you want to just give up.
Yeah, I mean, the life of flow is, I think it's more shallow than that. The title, it's like because it's like we're vascular surgeons, we deal with blood flow,
Got it.
but also because we're both Latin and we take things easy.
No, I
My
love that.
my co-host, I'm from Puerto Rico. My co-host from Costa Rica,
Okay.
so we try not to stress too much about things in general. As you know, you said you lived in Costa Rica for a while, so you
Yeah,
know
I
how
was
it
there.
is.
I was there for a bit. Yeah, I was in Costa Rica for
Yeah,
a while. I was in Peru for a while. So
yeah,
um, I've done a little bit of traveling. I love Latin culture in general. Any of the places that I've been, the values and the experiences that I've had have been very rich and very cool. So there's a deep appreciation that I think a lot of people share for life and fun and being a little bit more into the idea of things being gamified,
hmm
and playful, dancing and doing all
yeah,
kinds of festivities, events, things like that. And it's very, very cool. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Flow, blood flow. Try to make this thing. But no, it's
Yeah.
I love what you had to say too about the game kind of presenting new challenges as you go down the road and the obstacle sort of maybe being the way as it kind of comes into your focus and as you start to go down that road. Any tips for facing those challenges and being able to stay playful and stay focused and able to overcome those challenges and obstacles as they pop up in the game?
I mean, I think in the as Courtney kind of like has put out there are cheat codes. There are cheat codes. Again, it's a game. Other people have played it, and then so for me, I have a morning routine that just makes me feel good. I have a week routine. So in the morning, I start off like I have like a bunch of trees in the back, and I let my dogs out. I make a coffee, and I sit out there, and I try to meditate. I kind of go in and out of meditation multiple times a day for 15 minutes, and then uh, I go to my garage. I have a couple weights. I lift some weights, um, and then I write something, either whatever type of different journal Courtney puts me in, at the moment with, like, you know, I did like a shadow work journal, but sometimes I just write shit somewhere just to put them out there and write, okay, today, I'm going to do this for myself. Today, I'm going to go to, recently I started training Muay Thai because I read somewhere that Pythagoras in his school, besides teaching geometry and mathematics and philosophy, like all his disciples had to like do wrestling and do like physical combat with each other to attain like, kind of like the highest essence of themselves. And then said, okay, let me try it. So I started doing it, and I feel great. Like, I after doing 2 hours of kicking and punching someone else and being kicked and punched, I feel awesome. Uh, so that's mine,
Yeah.
that's what I do. So figure out what, and then I start the weeks, and I kind of want to do it more often. It's kind of like so cliche right here in Austin, but it's like I do cold plunge and sauna Monday mornings with buddies, and we just do that and talk about our week. I also like um, Latin culture. I don't think is big, or maybe it was before when I know before there was like the club of Club de Leones, which was like a men's social club or like the Rotary Club. I, and so there, I didn't grow up with that, but here, like I was invited to like a men's circle where we just like a couple times a month sit down and just talk about, complain about shit about life, kind of like talk about it, how to figure it out. So that's been really good for me to like have that um, conversations with other men that are in my same age that are going through the same things, and we kind of, so those are the things I do that make sense for me at the moment. I'm sure they'll change. I'm sure that they're modified, but I think you find those cheat codes that make you have be able to step back
Mm.
from the problem, because the problem is never that big, really, and there's always like multiple solutions. So find the things that allow your body, like treat your body well, eat well. I try to not eat carbs as much as I can. I have some weaknesses there, but I try to eat healthy as much as I can. I buy my stuff here. We're lucky to have a farmer's market. I think that's really important. Like, I think what you put like in your mouth is super important. So find out what that's for you, and then find out what your routine is that allows your mind to be clear and have perspective and be flexible to things and look at opportunities. Uh, and yeah, I think, you know, experiment, like really experiment with in a healthy way, obviously.
Right, right.
Uh,
Don't experiment with crack from a doctor, everybody.
no, 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 no.
No, but
Like
no, I'm
experiment with your mind, doing exercise. Like there's so many different things you can do with your mind that don't involve any substances. It's just you putting yourself through specific scenarios, and then see what works for you.
no, I love that, and that's like kind of a 10,000 foot view of how you can make sure that you are setting yourself up for success. Mentally, physically. Hey, find some things that you like to do, and that way, it's like it's not some magic pill in the moment where it's like, oh, I'm suffering right now and I need a quick fix. It's like, no, like find the things for you, whatever that is. Morning routine, Muay Thai, jujitsu, going to the gym, walking. I do also have a very consistent morning routine myself. And so I'll wake up, I do morning pages, I journal too, and just like write
Hmm.
whatever comes out. It's like a lot of times it just happens to be, I will complain some, but a lot of times it'll be like, I need to do this, I need to talk to so and so, whatever. And it's a really good way for me to kind of reflect on where I am and where I'm trying to go too, and to be a little bit more conscious about the actions that I'm taking and set myself up also
Yeah,
for
but
success.
I'll tell you a quick, if you're suffering like mental suffering, right? A quick fix
I love it.
that works. Go exercise, go walk outside late in the evening, and then get 8 hours of sleep.
Mm.
You will feel like every single time. That is, if I can say one thing that I kind of figured out, is 8 hours of sleep makes everything better. So do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And any tips for people who have trouble sleeping?
I don't know. I'm figuring that out. I have issues sleeping too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a couple of books I want to read about it, but I haven't figured out sleeping yet. I'm gonna experiment with like mouth. I want to experiment with mouth taping
Yeah.
again. Experiment a little bit, read a little bit. Yoga Nidra, where you kind of concentrate on the sensations and feelings So you lay in bed and then you kind of like concentrate on your toes, and then you concentrate on your ankle, and then you concentrate on your calves, and then you concentrate on all the feelings in your body. And by the time you get to your belly button, you're asleep.
Oh,
So
that's good.
yeah,
I love.
so that helps. That I
Yeah.
found that to be helpful.
All right, that's a great tip. Yeah, I'd like. There's a couple of guided meditations actually that
Hmm.
I found is like a Neville Goddard I am meditation, and kind of the same thing where he's like, you focus on this part of your body, you focus on, and then I usually don't get all the way through. I do usually fall asleep, or I'll start to fall asleep, and then my phone rings,
Yeah,
or something,
I know. Yeah.
or that can happen. But no, I think that's a really good practice right there. And yeah, I notice I just go through cycles. Sometimes I sleep well, sometimes I'm not sleeping as well. It just that just is what it is. But I think that's a great. It's like counting
Yeah.
sheep, sort of. But
Yeah, I think it's super important. Sleep is super important. It's something that I haven't really, I think I need to give more attention to,
do
because it
you?
it, it affects everything.
Yeah, it definitely does. Do you remember your dreams?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't remember my dreams. I have, which is weird. I've always thought like, man, what's going on there? Because I have very little memories from childhood also,
Mhm.
which is interesting. And I was always like, some people can remember everything. I can't. And I can't remember my dreams. So, and I know I'm dreaming. So,
Yeah,
some,
it is happening, and I'm the same. Like I will remember my dreams just every so often. It's very rare, and I
yeah.
also don't have a lot of uh, childhood memories. Some of the traumatic ones stuck,
Mm. Yeah.
and I've done the work on that stuff, and that's I think why it's why it's come up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm same. I don't really often remember my dreams. Every once in a while I will. And in fact, I had like a 20-second lucid dream the other night where I was like in Home Depot. And the same thing happens. I'm
So you
always like,
love Home Depot as much as every other man on this planet. Every other 30-year-old and above man on this earth.
I was just in Home Depot and I'm like, oh, am I dreaming right now? And then
Yeah.
I do the same thing every time. I'm like, I'm going to fly, I start flying.
You flew over the aisles of Home Depot,
I'm going to
grabbing
fly.
like whatever tools, like, whatever Ryobi, like fucking
Yeah, yeah.
cordless drill you wanted.
It's like a whole new world, like Jasmine
Like
on a
Aladdin.
magic carpet, just looking at all the beautiful, hardware and lumber.
Yeah.
And this place is amazing. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's great, man. I definitely notice a big difference in my energy levels when I am getting more sleep, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of times it's the simple things that when we pay attention to those things, they make a bigger difference. It's like not one thing that everybody has this like one thing, like do this one thing and it'll fix
Yeah.
everything. It's like, no, that's not
No,
how it
that,
works.
it doesn't work like that. I wish.
Yeah, right. It's like
Yeah.
all these little things help to
Yeah.
build that energy up in maybe your character as you play the game. It's like sleep, like you said, eating well, taking care of yourself, getting exercise, like all these little things to add up
Yeah.
over time. And I think that's
Yeah. And
uh,
another thing is, I think it really helps is do difficult things that you don't want to do.
mm,
And especially like in I've like the easiest way for me to do this in exercise. Like if there's like one type of exercise I just hate doing, or like whatever, like I try to do that and to like build mental calluses. And I found like that when I started, when you go out and you have your first job as a surgeon, it's difficult because before in training you have someone with you, and it's kind of really mentally, those first 2 years are just like mentally stressful because you're doing all these, people are, it's kind of life and death, and you're like, okay, I've done this, I've trained for like 15 years, but still like I'm kind of new doing this. So I started doing CrossFit at that time, and whenever I would do CrossFit at the morning before, I felt like I could handle the stress. And I think it's that. It's just like doing, because I hated CrossFit. I fucking hated it.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
hated it with a passion. I was like, why am I putting myself through this? But then I would like go in and and do like difficult things and be stressed out. And it's like, man, if I could lift that stuff up and down, back and forth, and at 5 a.m. I can do this. So, and it's not CrossFit. It's just doing something that you don't want to do, and powering through it and developing that mental callus. I think that's also a little something I've learned.
Man, I love that. That's really good. And it's like certainly not something that I want to hear, and probably other people don't want to hear it too.
I don't want to hear it either.
Yeah. Like do the thing that you
Yeah.
hate. And you're like, no, I hate that. I don't want to, why would I want to
Yeah.
do it? But the idea of mental calluses, that's
Yeah.
exceptional. I really, really like that a lot because like it pushes us, challenges us, and it makes us grow and become stronger as a result of challenging our own mind.
Yeah. But again, if you gamify it, I think that the trick
Mhm.
is gamifying things.
How did you gamify CrossFit? Because it does look miserable.
I didn't. I hated it. It is miserable. But then now when I do it now, I just gamify it. I'm like, okay, if I do 4 more reps of this, then my brain will be better, or my brain will be tougher. I was like, oh, let me see how, last time I did this, let me see if I can up myself, kind of a deal.
Yeah, that's great.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's any science behind that.
No, I think there definitely is. There's a book actually called Atomic Habits.
Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. So he talks a lot about like rewarding yourself after you do, a difficult task, or even flipping that, doing something that you enjoy in order to, do. For me, it's easier to eat the frog first thing, as they say. Like you eat the frog
Hmm.
first and do the thing
Yeah.
that you is going to be the most difficult and take the most willpower early. So like going to CrossFit at 5 a.m. Just sounds miserable. But I feel like if you do that, you're like, I did that. Fuck. Like
Yeah.
I can do that. I can overcome that. And
Yeah.
so when another challenge comes, you're like not so intimidated by it. You're like, I got up and did CrossFit at 5 a.m. So I should be able to do this as well. And that's yeah, that's great. And then yeah, when I finish this, I'm gonna go get a tea or a coffee or some sort of a treat type of thing that's also hopefully healthy, right? But
Hmm.
something that but yeah, something that's a little bit more enjoyable at the end of that cycle after putting
Yeah.
yourself in the misery of.
Yeah.
I mean, I may have to do something like that myself. Like I've been going to the gym pretty consistently, and I've got like a little bit of a routine down. But I think now it's like it's time to shake it up. It's time to make it a little bit harder and do something that's out of the comfort zone, And it's like this
Hmm.
constant. It's like you're talking about in the video game. It's like you level up, you get to this place, and it's like my
Yeah.
immediate thing was like I'm just gonna establish a habit. I'm just going to get used to going. I'm just going to get used to taking 10,000 steps a day. I'm just going to get used to doing 20 minutes on the stair climber or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I've built that callus and it's time to make it even stronger.
Yeah.
Little baby steps like that.
Yeah. For
I
sure.
agree.
Um, what else?
Yeah. So just like regarding consciousness, medicine, I would love to know kind of how you see everything being mental, first, this like idea of mentality. How does that apply scientifically? So if we take it from a cause and apply that, like, of course, you've got the physical, scientific, pragmatic, objective. This happens. I do this experiment. I see evidence for it. But how can we leverage our mental states to influence the world? You're talking a little bit about manipulating reality, quote unquote. What does that look like in your world? How can you apply that, and what have you seen as far as like maybe some specific examples or results that you might be able to share with us?
I mean, those two worlds, like corporate medicine, which is kind of what I do, and that other, you know, alternative consciousness movement community, however, those two worlds don't meet. Um, I try to like one thing that I try to do in like small things. Like I remember this guy came and lectured us about how he built this big program for unhoused children in Colombia, and he started by like walking down the street one day and seeing two kids in the street and just like finding a home for them. So just like something really small. So I don't try to do big things from the start. I like to do small things.
Mhm.
So be it like one thing, one way I apply it is like, and you see it like, it's really fascinating when information clicks on someone. And I think that that's a way to like create change, is finding ways of making information click on other people's brains.
Mhm.
So going back to the gamification thing, one big problem that I deal with people, my patients every day is smoking, like cigarettes. And the way it works, and it is all mental. Like it's truly all mental, because the way, like, one of my really good friends is Jillian. She's a dietitian, and she told me some things like we all find different ways to soothe. So she worked with women that have issues with food and diet, and a lot of people soothe their anxiety through food. I do that. We all do that kind of
Sure.
deal. So people do that with cigarettes too. So they use them to soothe their anxiety and the stress that we all have in life, like that the game gives you. So I found that explaining, and I played with them the cigarette game. So when they saw cigarette, I said, okay, let's play the cigarette game. And the cigarette game is like, okay, you smoke a pack. So a pack is 20 cigarettes. So next week, I told them, I don't want you to quit cold turkey. That's not what we're doing. We're learning how to fail, and fail in a better way. So next week you're gonna smoke 19. The week before, after that, you're gonna smoke 18, and you're gonna keep going until you reach the 15. And I'm gonna tell you what happens at 15. At 15, something's gonna piss you off in life. Something's gonna make you feel like shit, and you're gonna go back to smoking 20 or 30. And there's where the decision happens. It's either you choose mental, right? It's either, there's two options there. One option is the one you've done so far, which is I suck, I can't do this, I'll never win at this. And the other one is, oh, I got to 15. That's amazing. That means that I can get to 14. And choosing between those is the difference between success and not. So that was inspired. I didn't come up with, the concept for that. My friend Vision told me when he explained to me the game. And I was like, oh, well, let's just play games with all these things.
Mhm.
So in that sense, and I do the same thing with food. Like, I worked in San Antonio. When I told my patients not to eat tacos every day, they looked at me like I was crazy. Or tortillas. And I just said, well, let's just play the taco game. Like, you're gonna eat how many tacos, that's the way, really practical, nuts and bolts way. It's kind of boring. There's no like mystical, enlightenment in any of these things. But that's the only thing I've kind of come up with. There are a lot of people, especially like, I think Austin's kind of like the tip of the spear in experimenting. And I'm not going to talk about all the things that people are doing here, because a lot of them are not in the guidelines, medical guidelines, and a lot of them are illegal. But there's a lot of empirical experimentation going on. Um, and it's a shame that we're not embracing some of that in the mainstream. Establishing obviously guardrails so people don't get hurt. But there's a lot of interesting work that people are doing. Exploring the mind, exploring how the mind, how to bend reality to your will. And yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. A lot of the exploring consciousness stuff. I mean, even when things kind of came out in the forefront in the 60s, Timothy Leary was a strong advocate for putting guardrails on things. And instead of doing that and having people who were licensed practitioners to do certain experiments and
Yeah.
work in the empirical, they decided like, no, we're just going to shove this away. And I think we are at a place now where it's a little bit more approachable and people are a little bit more open to exploring those types of things. But I love the practical and the pragmatic. I'm personally like an advocate of just natural, pretty much everything, natural. I don't think we need a lot of outside help. And sometimes it can be needed or useful for certain people. But I'd say, like, let's try this cigarette game first, for instance. The idea of making that change and it being mental. There's a great book called The Easy Way to Stop Smoking. Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not.
It's a book by Alan Carr, and he wrote several other books. He's like The Easy Way to Stop Drinking, The Easy Way to Stop Smoking, The Easy Way to Stop Cannabis, like all these other things. And it's completely mental. Like the way that he frames it is pretty brilliant, because he's like, people think that they smoke to relieve their stress, but actually it does the opposite. And the more someone smokes, the more willpower they actually have. Because if you've ever smoked a cigarette, I mean, it tastes like an exhaust pipe, like there's nothing good about it. So you're literally like pushing yourself. And I smoked for years and years. And I read that book, and Reality Transurfing was really the thing that made me quit, because I noticed it. I noticed cigarettes as a what he calls a pendulum, or like a energetic information structure type of thing, that I was feeding it. I was feeding this thing. And what made me the most surprised when I quit was that it freed up so much more mental bandwidth. Like, I was smoking cigarettes every 5, 10, 20 minutes, whatever, right? A pack a day or whatever. And so every few minutes, I would be thinking about a cigarette. So the amount of time that I just thought about smoking was maybe 10, 20% of my mental capacity. And when I quit, like I freed up all that mental RAM, so to speak, and I was able to focus on other activities a lot more effectively.
Yeah. One thing, and that's gonna be a little taboo or whatever. One thing that I'm experimenting the thing, and I think for men, and there's truths behind a lot of things. So I think all this. So one thing that I've experimenting with, it's like semen retention. Have you worked with any of that?
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah, I've definitely played with it.
That is a superpower for men. If like I did it for like a month and a half, I could,
Wow.
yeah, and man, it was crazy. It's crazy that like I could work out how like for hours. Clarity, like the way you interact with people, uh, the amount of energy you have when you wake up, it was crazy. It's hard as hell.
It is hard. But I mean, the tantric stuff has been around for so long, right? Like all that.
Yeah. And then I figured out, oh, that's what this whole like celibacy thing is about. It's not about moral anything. Is that, oh, this is like another kind of cheat code for men, that this is kind of like, it's kind of like, I don't know, like a drug that just gives you unlimited energy. But getting through those first 2 weeks is hell. Getting through those first 2 weeks is hell, and then it becomes easier. And then when you get to a month, it's addicting. And then you start having problems with your relationship, because you're like, you know what? I never want to orgasm ever again.
Yeah, dude, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Your partner is like, no, buddy, you have to like, yeah.
No, it's so true. No, it's so true, and it is taboo, but also like it's also sensationalized too on YouTube. Like if you look up semen retention, people are like, "Yeah, I did semen retention, and like animals came up to me, and I fell through the mist." Like, it's like, dude, no, that's not how it works, but it does. Like,
Maybe for you, maybe that's your thing. I don't know. Not for me. No animals talk to me. Yeah.
Right. But no, I
I
do
could wake
recommend.
up at 5 a.m. easier,
Yeah,
and yeah,
absolutely. I've played with it for years on and off, and it is very hard to
yeah.
do. But I have noticed very similar uh, circumstances, consequences of it, where I do feel like I've got a lot more energy. You can just like I'm gonna kind of feel like a in my chest. I can feel like a
Hmm.
tingling kind of sensation where I've got more energy, more vitality uh,
Yeah,
within me, and I think there are ways to go deeper into that where you can still perform and not but still retain. I guess if
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah, yeah,
it takes a
yeah,
lot of practice and a lot of work, but I think there's definitely something to that as well. And I've
yeah.
seen a lot of improvement creatively as well
Hmm.
when I do that. Now, a lot of people talk about the medical side effects of that, like as far as like the system, the pipes down there.
Yeah, ball cancer or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went down the rabbit hole. I couldn't find anything. Well, that's the thing. Like, who's studying that?
Right.
How how the hell do you find like 100 men to semen retain? Like the follow up on that study is gonna be horrible. So that's an impossible study to do.
They're all lying. They're like, yeah, it's
They're
been
all lying. Everyone's like, you get a bunch of monks that tell you, yeah, 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 never. Yeah, they're all lying. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. Yeah, for like that's a good thing to think about because I've heard both sides. You always hear this side and that side. It's like, oh well, every so often you need to release it because it's bad for you and blah blah blah. But in my experience, I haven't had that. I haven't had that like sensation that it was bad for me or that like in fact kind of the opposite when I would end my retention, I would feel kind of like lower energy and
I
just
know.
like
Yeah,
vampire
100%.
remorse.
Yeah, you're like, oh fuck, I fucked it up.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, but it is definitely something. And Napoleon Hill talked about it in, I think, Think and Grow
Yeah,
Rich. And he
yeah,
talks about it in there, the sexual transmutation and sexual transmutation.
yeah. Transmutation of energy. Yeah, which
And it
I
makes,
totally believe. I mean, like we create, like it's so much energy, we create life with it. So
yeah, I mean, that's a
yeah,
pretty good argument for,
yeah,
it's very surface level and easy to understand too,
yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, no, I definitely have had some interesting experiences there, and yeah, I encourage people to give it a try. We were actually talking on the last live stream that I did with a couple of guys, and one of my friends, Brandon, was talking about it. It like randomly came up, and I was like, "Wow, this is interesting."
Hmm.
I'm gonna make a video about it, maybe to just talk about some of the experiences, pros and cons, so to speak, because like there is that sensationalized sort of
Yeah,
angle.
I would say don't look. Just try for yourself.
Yeah,
Just try for
absolutely.
yourself. Don't look at all the YouTube videos like about like this, that they give you a timeline. By this month you'll feel this, and by this month you'll feel that, and then you'll be enlightened by like 7.5 months. It's like maybe I haven't gone to 7.5 months.
Yeah, I have not either. I mean, I think maybe I'm
Yeah,
like max a month or something like that, pretty close.
yeah,
But I try not to even count because it's like
yeah,
about it. But I have definitely
yeah.
noticed some benefits from it. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, and the fact that you don't see any negative physiological side effects from it.
I
That's
mean, who knows? I might develop the testicular cancer tomorrow, but hey, I don't know. That's
but
impossible to prove. That's kind of
yeah,
like
okay.
that's literally like impossible to prove.
Very cool. Yeah, that's good to know, man. That actually puts me at ease a little bit because like that was the one thing where I've been kind of juggling back and forth, and so now I'm gonna have to commit a little harder and be a little bit more involved in that. But anything
Yeah.
else as far as energy levels go, that we could do, male, female, doesn't matter that you've noticed as far as
Mm,
like bringing those things up to have a little bit more mental energy, a little bit more clarity, a little bit more vibrance.
Those are the main things, man. To be honest, I'm an amateur at this. I'm just trying to figure stuff out.
No, that's so
You know,
cool, dude. I
yeah.
love it. Yeah, it's a great approach and like really straightforward. I mean, it's not like you have to like hop in a funnel and pay $5,000 or whatever,
No,
like to live a better life. That's what a lot of marketing stuff.
no, don't do that. Keep the money, go on vacation. Go
Yeah,
go to the mountains somewhere. Go nature for sure. Going to nature. Spend that money going to nature.
I love
Like I live here, I live in Austin. I love West Texas. I didn't grow up with the desert. I didn't know what that was. I love the desert. The desert's an amazing place. It gives you an amazing kind of inward perspective. So go to these places that cause these things, these gives you the space to have perspective again and kind of take a step back and yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that too. Yeah, I live here in Georgia, it's like the foothills of the mountains. So the mountains are just up the way. And
Yeah.
I've been to the desert quite a few times too. And I love the desert also. It's like when I was in Costa Rica, for instance, we were going through the jungle a lot. And I thought I would see a lot of wildlife there. It was great being in nature, but it's so lush and green, you really don't see that much.
Hmm.
See
Yeah.
much, so bushy. But in the desert, like just tons and tons of animals. They're exposed. It's open, so it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to see them. And yeah, absolutely love that. That's a great tip as well. So, we're talking about really straightforward things, folks, like give yourself some time, create a routine for yourself, make sure that you're getting some form of exercise, eat well, eat healthy, try to avoid, things that are bad for you, very
Yeah.
simply, and find activities that, are enjoyable to you. And yeah, and test the waters, try different things out, like like Lucas and I have been doing. You
Test the
know,
waters. It's fun. It's fun to see where, man, there's so much we don't know. Our brain is such a our consciousness, our brain, whatever you want to call it, it's such a mystery. It's a fun mystery. So play around with it.
man, I love that. From a surgeon himself, the brain is a mystery. Play around with it, and yeah, it's just been awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, talk a little bit, and really make all this stuff super approachable. I mean, the whole idea of this podcast is just practical spirituality, and I feel like we really hit the nail on the head on this episode. So I want to thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That was fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having taken the time. I know you're extremely busy and making, a very, very big impact on a lot of people in their lives. So I want to direct anybody who's in the medical, and I do have some people who are in the medical field in my sphere. So I want to direct them to the Life of Flow. Check that out. Check out the podcast. Like learn a little bit of about what's going on, some stories, and some also just doctors being human.
Yeah.
What it sounds like to me, and I really appreciate that, man. You guys do incredible work, and I really appreciate you sharing with us today, and my following, I know will really appreciate the time as well. So I just want to say,
Appreciate that.
and yeah, and where can people find Life of Flow, and if they want to find out more about you?
Everything Spotify, Apple, X, everywhere. I don't have social media because I try to protect my dopamine levels as much as possible. I have somebody that manages the social media for it, but I have a LinkedIn, so that's the only place I kind of like half time check sometimes. So if you want to message me there, happy
Awesome.
happy to connect.
That's awesome. So I'll put the link for the podcast in the show notes, everybody. You'll be able to click the link and immediately go and check out the podcast. And then I'm going to have to get my LinkedIn together. I know that's going to be part of my chore list.
Yeah, with Courtney. Courtney's gonna put you on
Oh,
that.
I'm so
Yeah.
embarrassed that I even had to sit. I haven't been on there in 10 years. I'm like, the content's trash. Oh, man. But anyway, we'll
Yeah.
get it fixed. That's what it's all about. But thanks again. I really appreciate it. And thanks, everybody. Be sure to check out those links.
All right. Thank you.